Hello, everyone. It has been a long time coming. I definitely took too long of a break, I think. But, you know, it's so funny. Last season wasn't even over, but I am calling it over. It was a great it was a great time. It was a very interesting time for the podcast, I would say. It feels great to be back again. I am here with you today to talk about something that's very broad, very it reaches a wide level of audience in terms of relatability. And I know this for a fact because I've heard it said way too many times. I'm just going to dive right into it. You know, there's enough time for us to catch up with each other on this show. I am planning on coming back full force, full swing, guests or no guests. For those of you who are listening, thank you so much. For those of you who are watching, thank you, and I hope you like my new hair. For those of you who, just happen to randomly stumble upon this podcast, welcome. This is Breaking Down the Breakdown. I am Steven Diego. I'm just some regular person from Toronto trying to share stories, trying to share, people's stories, not just mine, because I want there to be some sort of camaraderie, especially with, the events of the world that's happening right now. It's been wild, but at the same time, I feel like it has been a long time coming, and that is sad to say. But we're not going to get into that, not too deep into that. It is affecting everyone, but I am here to talk about something else that affects everyone eventually. Whether you like it or not, it is coming for you. And it is a crisis like no other. Other people may experience it differently than you do. Not may. There's a great chance people will not experience the same kind of crisis. But there's also a great chance that you would. Isn't that what life is all about? It's, a mixed bag of sorts. It's a variety of things. It's one day you're like this, the other day you're not, and then somebody else on a different side of the world just went through exactly the same thing you did, and you'll never know about it. And this is why I created this podcast as well, so that maybe we can connect ourselves with other people and in turn understand that we are not alone. Yes, we have our own unique hurdles in life, but we're all just running the same race. Now, what I'm talking about is a midlife crisis or quarter life crisis. I mean, whichever way you want to look at it. I call mine midlife because I am turning 36 this year. Let me tell y'all right now, people are like, you're not going to die at 70. You don't know that. And of course, I don't know if I'm going to live past it either. Let's be optimistic. I really hope I do. I hope that I'm happy so that I want to keep living past 70. No, but if I'm being serious, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that we need to really embrace life. We need to just enjoy as much of life as we can. Because for all we know, this is the only life we have to live. We never know what's going to happen when we are, we've been promoted to corpse. You never know what's going to happen. But I wanted to talk about today because for the past few years, I only noticed now. I noticed that for the past few years, I've been stuck on the same loop. And it might not seem that way. And for those of you who can relate to this, right? I want you to just hold on to your seats, because you might be like, now wait a goddamn minute, because does this man live under my bed? I can tell you right now, I probably live in some of your phones. You know what I'm talking about. Well, that's not the right show. We're not going to talk about that today. But what I'm pertaining to is, yes, I, have ventured into other things in life. I, made new friends. I've, opened up romantic relationships, like new things in my life. Yet I find myself in the same familiar space I was in, or rather, that I've been in almost every year. And I know that for some people, they get stuck in this dating cycle. They end up in the same kinds of relationships with different people. And it's very funny to note because they always end up saying things like, oh, I thought they were different, but they're really not. They ain't shit. And for the most part, I believe them. For the most part, that is unfortunately what happens. It's not necessarily the person that's always at fault, though. Sometimes it really is the circumstance that they find themselves in. But I'm not here to talk about relationships because that's not the cycle I found myself in. Rather, when I'm talking about progression in my life, I'm talking about my career. I'm talking about my talent. I'm talking about financially. Because it's very interesting for me. I find that ever since I got diagnosed with the OCD, which is what kickstarted this show in the first place, I found myself a lot more mindful of things that I do, things that I say. And it's beautiful. It's great. I honestly, it's, as much as I hate to say that what happened to me, happened, and that I am glad that it happened. I am glad that it happened because I never would have noticed / realized certain things about me and my life. And for some people, it's very unfortunate because I've met a lot of people who have been through traumatic experiences in which they've been carrying for the rest of their lives, or who they have been carrying for the past, decade, that they can't seem to let go of. And unfortunately, it is up to them to deal with it. Those are their demons, just much like this is mine. And I'm not here to provide solutions for y'all. I'm here because I want to share with y'all what I'm going through. When I say I've been stuck in the same cycle with my career, the funniest thing was I felt the same exact way and the same exact trajectory with my career that I did back in around, I would say, 2011, 2012. Back then, I was very active, not in the music industry, mind you, but in the film and TV industry. I did not have an agent of my own, except for a background agent. So I was booking background gigs here and there, but on my own it was a lot easier to book music video gigs, which for me I loved doing because it's less of a commitment. Sometimes it's just 1 day shoot, sometimes it's 2, but maximum visibility, which I loved. And back in the day that really mattered to me. Right now I don't really want to do background. If I were to come back to acting, I want to actually act. But my point was, back in 2011, 2012, I booked certain roles. I was booked for certain auditions that I never showed up for because I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I know we've spoken about imposter syndrome here on the podcast before. And, that's what it was. It was rearing its head. And all because of that one decision that I made, in which I didn't show up for an audition, and everything started getting very challenging. I started finding it very challenging to book roles, to book auditions, and I started blaming myself for that. I had convinced myself that it was because I didn't show up for one, but now nobody wants to see me. First of all, I'm a nobody in the industry at this point. OMG, really? Am I really going to blame myself for this? You know what? It was a one-off, right? But see, as human beings, especially for people like me, I'm very, I'm high in anxiety. I like to blame myself for a lot of things. I like to think I am the cause of every problem. And if this sounds familiar to you, I am so sorry. I am so sorry that you have to live your life like this, because I'm living my life like this too. Now, fast forward to now, right? A quick update, I actually quit the band that I was with. It was for personal reasons, of course. I wanted more self development, I wanted more focus on my own musical journey. And I kid you not, I'm sitting here, I was sitting here last week and I was thinking about all of the plans that I had made in 2021 when I went to California. And because that trip was so fruitful in terms of personal growth and in terms of just, I guess, even with my confidence, it really helped with my confidence. But nothing happened of significance with my music. I did meet a very, very talented individual. Actually, I met a few super talented individuals, but I was able to work with one. And the ball is in my court with what we worked on together. But this is where it gets very interesting. Much like in 2011, 2012, after booking all of these roles, I felt a lot more confident in my abilities. I felt a lot more secure. I felt like, you know what, this is the start of something beautiful. Much was the same for when I went to California. But the moment I came back here, and I tried to write a song, and I didn't like it. Usually I just don't care. Usually I would just be like, crumple, throw it away, on to the next. But this one hit me hard for some reason. I felt like I had been writing for years, and how could I write something so elementary? How could I write something so lame, so cringe, so cheesy? And, I can attribute this to my OCD because I am prone to a lot of really terrible intrusive thoughts, but this one stuck. It stuck. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, everything in my life was being affected. Not just the music part of it, everything in my life. My relationships, my friendships, at work, my streaming. It was like a thread, a loose thread that I did not know got snagged onto something, and it started unraveling itself. And now I'm hella naked. Quite the visual, I know. I apologize for that. But that's the feeling I'm getting. And this is where I start realizing, am I having a midlife crisis / a quarter life crisis? Right? For y'all, it might be a quarter life crisis, much like what I had back when I was in my 20s. And now I feel like I'm having a midlife crisis because everything is starting to feel like it doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter. Rather, it's anything that I do doesn't matter anymore because it's never going to be good enough for what I envision myself to have. Like, I wasn't good enough for myself. And there's this battle inside me that's telling me I should just settle for what I already know. I should just settle for this job. I should just settle for this kind of life because I can't afford financially and mentally and, physically, I can't afford to take risks anymore and experience another setback. And not once when this was going on, this dialogue in my head, not once did I question, where the fuck is this coming from? My entire life had been about resilience. My entire life had been about pivoting. Right? Shout out to David, codename Sage, on Twitch. Y'all please follow him. He is about to start streaming again. But, he calls me the Pivot King. And he is one of the few individuals that I've let into my life. Like, he knows me inside and out. And for him to be able to say that about me is one of the greatest compliments I've ever received. Because it really allowed me to see that this is how individuals see me. They see me stuck in a rut. They see me in such a terrible situation, but I pivot. And this is one of the things I want to share with you guys. For those of you who feel like you are stuck in this rut, or you have these quote unquote midlife / quarter life crisis, Ask yourselves, had this situation, maybe not the specific one, but the same feeling, had that feeling never showed, or you've never experienced this emotion before? I bet you can say, yeah, it has, and it happens quite often actually. So did you, for a whole entire year, actually really just bitch about it? And if you did, how were you able to complete everything else in your life? Why are you not, like, not functioning? Why do you still have roof over your head? Why do you still have food in your fridge? Why do you still have a job, right? If you really are as useless as you thought you were. This is something that I wanted to talk about because I know way too many people who are so talented. I know way too many people who, bring so much, not just to the table, in their own lives, but to other people's lives. And it always hurts me to see that they can't see that for themselves. And maybe I'm speaking for myself as well, because at some point I do have to take accountability for these things. At some point I do have to say, you know what? People are right. I am in X, Y, and Z, and instead of just embracing the fact that I'm talented, embracing the fact that I have the abilities to make it, I like to focus on the things I can't do. I like to focus on, and this is going to be, I don't want to say controversial, but some of y'all might be like, right? I choose to be a pick-me. I choose to want to talk about terrible things going on in my head, in my life. And I don't know why. It's not like I want the attention. A lot of you know for a fact that I don't even respond to messages sometimes. It's very hard for me. And that's another part of this whole thing that I'm experiencing, right? It's a part of my midlife crisis in which there are so many people trying to reach out, and I'm so overwhelmed. And it's not even a bad overwhelm. I'm so overwhelmed by the support that I'm getting, but I can't respond to every single one. And if I start to respond to a few, I start to think, like, why am I being selective in this? I need to be grateful to every single person that took time out of their day to send me uplifting words, to ask me how I'm doing, to let me know that, I'm cool, or whatever it is. And it gets back into this cycle again. I'm not worthy of this. I do not deserve this kind of, this kind of social circle. And then it's back down the drain because I don't deserve anything, because I'm not good at what I do. And I need to just keep working at Starbucks, slinging drinks for a living until the day I die. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? So don't be putting words in my mouth. I am not shitting on people whose passion is to make coffee for the rest of their lives. That's a passion right there. That is a career. I have seen coffee masters in my location, different locations. I've seen people work for McDonald's for the rest of their entire lives, and they are so happy. You can't take that shit away from them. The thing is, it's not that I'm unhappy with my job. I'm unhappy because I'm not where I want to be in my life. Let me ask y'all something. Not that I'm going to get an answer right away. But when you were younger, right? When you were younger and we were looking at older people, right? People our age. Well, I mean, I'm 35, so maybe a little bit younger for some of y'all. When you were looking at people who had careers, right? When we were in high school, or actually even younger than high school, in grade school, right? For a lot of us, we had an idea of what we wanted to do. A lot of people say a doctor. A lot of people say, I want to be a cop. Or, oh, I want to work for the bank. I don't know any kid who says that. Actually, I know a few people. I know a few kids growing up who really loved money. And they're like, I want to be a banker. I want to hold all this cash. So you know what? There is that. But we weren't prepared for the real world, right? And we can blame the school system for that, kind of. But it's because nobody can really prepare you for the real world. It's one of those situations where you're gonna have to live life. Unfortunately, there are no guides in life. There are some of us who can really adapt, right? There are some of us who were able to, I guess, because some of us are so neurodivergent that it makes a lot of things challenging for us, because not everything is cut and dry. Or for some of us, things have to be cut and dry, and the moment there is some form of disorder, our life starts tumbling down, right? But I'm trying to make this point in which, when we were kids, right, we didn't know anything about quarter life crisis, midlife crisis, mental health disorders, mental health issues. We didn't know anything about that. All we knew about was how to play, how to be hungry, how much we love our siblings, our families, our friends, how much we hate them sometimes. And that was about the scope of that, right? And we go into high school with this, and that's when we actually start developing personalities. And for some of us, it's not a great time. Like, some of us, we were terrible human beings in high school, me included. I can tell you right now, if people remember me from high school, right, it is not good things. I don't remember good things about me in high school at all, right? And I can attribute that to a lot of the things happening in my life, right? There are so many circumstances we don't know about, so many factors. I grew up without a father, things like that. Like, these things really do affect you. And it's not a knack or a dig at your mom. It's not, if it's the other way around, it's not a dig at your dad. It's not that. There will always be some form of void or space that you're trying to figure out. And you start doing dumb shit 101 just to try and see if that can replace that feeling of void within you, right? I love how this is evolving into a different topic, but let me make my point here. My point is, there are so many of us who experience these crises because growing up, and honestly, anyone can have these crises, let me just say that right now, but I noticed this pattern in a lot of us who, I don't want to say had troubled childhoods, I don't want to say trouble, I don't want to use that word, but who had a challenging time with getting to know who they were as individuals. Because now that we're older, now that we know better, now that we're more aware, more mindful, now that we're wiser, now we're starting to finally really get to know ourselves. And at the same time, now is supposed to be the time for us to have enacted our plans moving forward so that we can build, or we can use the foundation that we've built for our future. But for a lot of us, we just figured out who we were. I just realized who I was in 2020. There were fragments of me up until 2020 that started kind of popping up in my head. I was like, oh, is this actually the real me? There were fragments of me that I realized, holy fuck, what the hell was that? That, I do not want that. That is not me. I don't know why I did those things, right? It wasn't until 2020 that I realized who I truly am, or who I truly was. I mean, I am still evolving, but I now finally have an idea of the kind of person that I am. Unfortunately, I also now have an idea of how poor, how broke I am, and just how old I am. And the industry I'm trying to break into is not that forgiving, right? Imagine if I was a K-pop idol. I love the way I said idol. Like, that was weird, sorry. If I was in the K-pop industry and I'm trying to debut, right? This is like a Castaway Diva. Unfortunately, that's not like, it's not real life, right? But, hi, I'm Steven Diego. This is my debut. Oh, how old are you? I'm 36. What do you write about? What are your songs about? Oh, about heartbreak. When you hear somebody who is 36 writing about heartbreak, I kid you not, the first thing you think about is divorce. I have never been married. And this is kind of the thing. If you listen to the songs that I'm writing, if you listen to the songs that I have, or that, that I've released with my band, I love my band, like we can write whatever. But if you hear about the songs that I've written about, it does not sound like I'm a 36-year-old, right? And it's kind of weird to grasp. Because I'm trying to debut, and I'm writing about, I can't believe we broke up. I'm thinking about you all the time. Like a 36-year-old writing this, some people will be like, what a weirdo. How are you 36 and still hung up on a person? Haven't you lived life? And that right there is one of the most important questions we could ever face. Haven't you ever lived life? We have. Unfortunately, it's not the life that everybody else thinks. And this is why some of us have these midlife/quarter life crises. Because this is new territory for us, in which we now have to bear responsibility for all of the things that we did or didn't do up until this point, that we have no solutions for. And it's affecting us mentally. It's affecting us sometimes sexually, like it's a health problem as well, right? You never know what your crises can show up as. But I bet you $1,500 that at some point you sat there and you thought, what the fuck is life right now? Why can't I seem to solve anything? And before you even have time to think about what to do, you have to go to work. You have to do this, you have to do that. And because you have to do this, do that, and to go to work, guess what you do? Nothing. You pop on Netflix, you watch 10 episodes of a show, then you beat yourself up over it because you should have planned for something. But guess what? No time for planning because you have work tomorrow. So you say you can do it after work, you go to work. After work, you're so tired, you just want to take a nap, take a little nap. Wake up, you have to make dinner. It is already 8:30 p.m. You have work at 9 a.m. the next day. What are you going to do? Are you really going to sit there and plan your stuff? Normally, the answer is yes. But for a lot of people, the answer is no. I'm going to sit here and feel even more guilty that I am now having to put this off again. And that is one of the many, many different types of ruts you can get stuck in, right? It's something I'm experiencing at this moment. A lot of us are experiencing this. So why am I talking about this without any solution today? Well, let me tell you right now, because this is breaking down the breakdown. I'm not saying we are solving the breakdown. I'm not trying to heal the person who has a breakdown. We're breaking it down. I just broke down for you possibilities of why you are having this breakdown. And I broke down why I'm having my breakdown. And all I'm doing right now, because this is the first episode of the season, I guess, and this is my first episode back, I just wanted to let y'all know, right? I have been on hiatus for God knows how long. And before that, I was also on a hiatus for God knows how long. If there's one thing I'm trying to prove with this episode right now, is that you have to keep it going. You have to keep it moving. It doesn't matter how long you take. It doesn't matter how long of a break you want to take for yourself. What matters is that you show up for yourself every once in a while, like what I'm doing now. This is as much for me as it is for y'all. Because I forgot how much I loved this feeling. I forgot how much I loved doing this. I forgot how many people this show had actually reached out to and in some ways helped out. Everybody has that in them. And if there is one thing that I know for sure that allowed me to survive any type of crisis. And I say survive because I don't know if I've actually thrived through it, because I'm still facing one right now after 10 years, right? it truly was helping other people. Oh my god. Oh my god. My camera died. See? This right here. Honestly, I would have just canceled this. I would have been like, this is a sign. This is not gonna happen. But you know, we're gonna push through because we are actually almost done here. But as I was saying earlier, you know what? Helping other people, it just releases some crazy endorphin. And I think in some ways it reminds you that you're not as I was gonna say as useless as you think you are. But you are not useless. You matter in this world. You have so much to offer. But everything else just clouds that. Everything else just clouds you from seeing that. So my last message for this episode is this, guys. Truly, if you start to feel like you're stuck in a rut, if you start to feel like there's nothing going on in your life, try helping somebody. I don't mean be a doormat. I mean, like, try helping people who really need it, right? Go and volunteer somewhere. If you don't have time, donate a little bit of money. If you don't have money, try to lend an ear to somebody who just needs to talk. Just try anything. Allow yourself to have room for, such a gracious distraction in your life. This has been Breaking Down the Breakdown. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I missed y'all. If you guys want to be a guest on this show, it's StevenDiego@hotmail.com. You guys can find me on social media. Actually, you can add me on Steven Diego Music. I will change. Yeah, new things are about to happen, so you guys can message me there if you're more of an Instagram type of people. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate y'all showing up, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye, guys.